I know, isn't that funny? How quickly that's changed.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. 'Twas blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storms, through the night, take my hand, lead me to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. When my way gets drear, precious Lord, linger near. When my light is almost gone, oh, hear my cry, hear my call, hold my hand. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storms, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Good morning. Welcome to our worship service at the First Unitarian Church of Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm Sarah Stewart. I'm the minister here. It is wonderful to have all of you with us this morning. And it's wonderful, too, to have those of you who are worshiping with us from home. I'm leading worship this morning with our Director of Music, Will Sherwood, our Director of Faith Development, Juliet Donaldson, our Children's Coordinator, Abigail Hannaford-Riccardi, our Assistant Director of Music, James Haupt, and our Broadcast Tech, Eugene Rossi. Blaine Bershad and Darren Belanger are volunteering. Jay Lavelle is our head usher. And joining our choir in offering our music this morning are Madeline Browning on flute, Noel Carey on clarinet and saxophone, and Bob Gordon on percussion. And we are especially pleased to have Athene Wilson joining us once again as our guest soloist. Here at First Unitarian Church, we strive in loving fellowship to honor the sacred, connect with each other, and serve justice. We are a welcoming congregation. Whatever your age, race, class, nationality, sexual orientation, or gender identity, we are delighted to have you with us this morning. We are worshiping as one congregation in many places. We have all people here in the sanctuary and people joining us online. If you're here in the sanctuary while keeping your mask on, please feel free to participate in all the unison prayers and readings and sing the hymns. And if you're at home, the words to the readings and hymns will appear on your screen, so you can join in as well. We will have our social hour in the garden outside. We have snacks. Feel free to remove your mask once you're outside. If you are online, you can like this video to help others find us and subscribe to our channel to find more content. Everyone can stay connected to the church through our website, firstunitarian.com, our Facebook page, and our newsletter. The newsletter is the best way to stay in touch and join all the programs we have going on. You can go to firstunitarian.com and click subscribe to the newsletter at the bottom of any page. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We gather in holy community to be in the company of well-meaning people, to be with others whose intent is to get good and do good, to encourage spiritual growth and find fellowship with other children of God, to show up as a sign of hope, to worship God, to be encouraged on a quest to understand spiritual issues, to feed our spirits, to be inspired and to take part in helping with issues of social justice, because our survival depends on it, for grace and hope. We gather to feel rooted in something deeper and wiser than ourselves, to join a conversation across ages and cultures, and to find ways to be with other people through hard things and to rejoice. For fellowship, because we choose it, because we feel heard and seek wisdom, to see and hear the perspectives of others. For social connections, spiritual comfort, to serve and give thanks, to be held and to hold, to know more than we knew on our own, to be fed. For a sense of community connected to spiritual ideas and a higher power. We gather in life's rhythm to experience the holy in community, where we are drawn together toward our best selves. Amen.
In the spirit of love,
We light this chalice. Please rise in body or spirit to renew the covenant of our church with the words printed in your order of service or appearing on your screen. In the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of all. Number 358 in your gray hymnal, Rank by Rank. Again, we stand.
Good morning. This year, our Sunday morning program for children is titled Camp Athena, and we invite demigods of all ages to come and join us in our meeting place, the Agora, known to mortals here as Unity Hall. In Greek cities, the Agora was an open space where citizens would go to meet one another, share ideas, and build community, which is exactly what we'll be doing on Sunday mornings. Each Sunday, we'll explore the tale of the day here in the sanctuary and then go up to the agora. Well, we'll light candles, share our triumphs and our troubles, and spend time building a community grounded in our 7 pillars of wisdom, encouraging us to honor each other, care for one another, accept others, seek wisdom, listen to all voices, make connections, and guard the earth. We'll be in well-ventilated spaces wearing masks. We'll try to stay socially distanced. We're asking all adults and teens in our program to be vaccinated against COVID-19. We'll begin by exploring the stories of ancient Greece. And I wonder what ancient Greek mythology can teach us today. As it turns out, quite a lot. The foundation of the Western world is grounded in ancient Greek thought, and it can be seen most clearly in the words and phrases we use every day. Who hasn't heard of something being described as Titanic, or talked about a Trojan horse, an Achilles heel, or opening Pandora's box? Who has been put in their place, described as a narcissist, an Adonis, or even a Medusa? We still study Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, and much of Jewish and Christian thinking was grounded in Greek thought and ideas. We're asking all families to register ahead of time so you can agree to abide by our safety policies. And you can do so either through the link in the newsletter or on our website on the families page. And now it's time for us to hear our very first tale of the day. Abby is there with our story table, and we invite the children, if they wish to come and sit in front of Abby so you can see the story table firsthand. You can remain seated too, because the story will be broadcast on the television. So if you'd like to go up. Bobby, you can just sit down on the floor there. Just wait for Amelia and Miles and Annie. Today's story is called In the Beginning. In the beginning was chaos, and out of chaos came Uranus, the sky, Gaia, the earth, and Tartarus, the underworld. Together, Gaia and Uranus had children. First came the Hecatoncheires, immense creatures with 100 hands and 50 heads. Then came the 3 Cyclops, great creatures, each with just 1 eye. Then finally came 12 gods known as the Titans. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. What a lot of Titans. Now Uranus was ashamed of his offspring, the Cyclops and the Hecatoncheires, and he imprisoned them under the earth in Tartarus. Gaia wept bitter tears over this cruelty, and she persuaded Kronos, the strongest and bravest of the Titans, to destroy Uranus and bring her children out of the underworld. Kronos attacked his father, releasing the Cyclops and the Hecatoncheires. And he became ruler of heaven and earth in his father's place, taking his sister Rhea to be his wife and queen. But power changed Kronos, and just like his father, he too imprisoned the Hecatoncheires and the Cyclops under the ground in Tartarus. Kronos and Rhea bore 5 children. And Kronos, fearing that one of them would take his power from him as he had taken it from his own father, swallowed each child as soon as it was born. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. This made Rhea sad and angry, and she determined to save her next child. When Zeus, the last of her children, was born, she hid him on the island of Crete. She tricked Kronos. She wrapped a stone in a blanket and gave it to him to swallow, tricking him into believing it was his baby son, and he fell for it. Zeus grew up to be a strong and powerful young man, determined to free his brothers and sisters. With help from Gaia and Rhea, he tricked Kronos, giving him a poisoned drink, which caused him to vomit up each swallowed child, now fully grown: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. Now they were free, the 6 siblings settled themselves on Mount Olympus. And together, these Olympians fought the Titans so that they could rule the universe. For 10 long years they battled. 2 of the Titans' descendants joined Zeus. And when Zeus freed the Hecatoncheires and the Cyclops, they helped him too. The Hecatoncheires threw huge boulders at the Titans. And the Cyclops fashioned gifts to aid the Olympians in their battle. Zeus was given thunderbolts, Hades an invisible helmet, and Poseidon a trident. And working together, they defeated the Titans and imprisoned them in the underworld. Now, which of these Olympians should rule? Hades, Poseidon, or Zeus? They had all had enough of fighting, so they decided to draw lots. Hades would rule the underworld, Poseidon the sea, and Zeus would rule the sky. Settled in their home on Mount Olympus, the gods and goddesses used their gifts to try and create peace, harmony, and justice in the cosmos. They weren't always successful. Blessed be. And now, if the children would like to return to their seats, but on your way, you might like to pick up, we have some coloring pages here on the table, and markers and crayons. We also have some cutouts that you can do, so if you want to grab one of those. We also have bingo cards in the middle of our order of service, which everybody is welcome. If you hear one of the words on the bingo cards, please cross it out. Thank you.
a city called heaven, trying to make heaven my home. Sometimes I'm tossed and driven. Sometimes, dear Lord, I don't know which way to go. I heard a city called heaven. I'm trying to make heaven my
Please join me in the responsive common prayer on the insert in your order of service or appearing on your screen. With these words by Theodore Parker. We give thanks for the words of the Spirit, the breath of the good, the hope of the wise, the joy of the pious, the prayers of our churches, our better devotion by fireside and fieldside, the enchantment of our hearts. They raise our thoughts of sublimity. They purify our ideal of purity. They hallow our prayer for truth and love. We feel the presence of God in the first wind flower of spring, in the falling of a sparrow, in the distress of a nation, in the sorrow or the rapture of the world. We seek a religious life which shall pluck ignorance out of the heart and make us better parents and children. A religious life that shall go with us where we go and make every home the house of God, every act acceptable as a prayer. Please continue your own thoughts and prayers in silence. The joys and sorrows of our church with one another. Maura McAvee's family asks for a thought of prayer for her niece, Irene, who caught COVID 2 weeks ago and is now in St. Vincent's on a ventilator fighting for her life. We're holding Irene and Maura and all of their family in our hearts. We pray for all of those suffering in this pandemic. We know, too, that there are joys and sorrows which go unspoken among us, and so we reach out to one another across the distances that separate us in compassion as we say together the prayer of Jesus. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Hello, my name is Marc DeShaies, and I chaired the stewardship team this year which also includes Carrie West and Julia Clark. We're very proud to be involved today here on Ingathering Sunday, both virtually and in person. Like most of us over the age of about 30, I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing 20 years ago yesterday on Tuesday, September 1st, 2001. I had gone into work early and was very due for a break, so I went out to my car and opened up a thermos of coffee and sat and rested. But when I turned on the radio, I was stunned and shocked to hear news of planes hitting the World Trade Center, which then collapsed, another plane hitting the Pentagon, and to find out later that a fourth plane was involved in a mid-air struggle over the skies of Pennsylvania. I went back in work, and we were all shocked at what had happened, and we didn't know, were we at war, what was going to happen next, and fear and uncertainty hung in the air. It is at times like that during 9/11 and more recently during the pandemic and even more recently the Delta variant, which has followed, that in the middle of fear and uncertainty, I'm very proud to be a part of this church, First Unitarian of Worcester, where the stability and resilience and can-do attitude of our people really come to the fore. Our church goes back over 200 years to 1787, and you can imagine the different periods of time in that period during which stress and great change took place. The church has been through multiple fires, a tornado which knocked the steeple off the roof. You can see the names of those who served from our community near the kitchen under renovation, both those who died in the Civil War and those who served in the Second World War. So while I've only been a member 10 years, I've heard stories, for example, of the fire which ravaged the roof and caused great water damage in the year 2000, and how our church members rallied and self-sacrificed in order to bring the church back to the beautiful condition it's in now. And more recently, during the pandemic, how we've gathered together and supported one another, those who were just feeling stressed out, and even those who lost loved ones during this time. So it is with this feeling of resilience and response to fear and uncertainty that our stewardship theme this year is Hope Grows Here. Hope unites us. Stewardship means more than just filling out a pledge card for next year. It also involves showing how we care for each other, both emotionally, here in our church and in the wider community. To celebrate these values and to celebrate hope, 3 weeks from now at Stewardship Sunday, on Sunday, October 3rd, we'll be hosting a party right out here immediately after church in the courtyard. And there will be both food, since our COVID restrictions allow us to eat outside, and there will be activities for both adults and kids. And just so we have an idea of how much food to bring, I'm encouraging everyone to sign up through an RSVP. You can tap me on the shoulder after church today at coffee hour, and I'll write your name on the clipboard. Or if you're not sure yet, we'll have the same sign-up sheets, both in the entrances to the church and online. On Stewardship Sunday, you'll have the opportunity to let people know how you can give back. And while the official campaign to encourage everyone to pledge starts Sunday, October 3rd, I couldn't wait to get so I sent my pledge in already on email, because I'm very proud to take part in the hope that grows here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. All our ministries at First Unitarian Church thrive because of your support. In the past week, volunteers gathered yesterday to clean the church ahead of this in-gathering service, and to work with Juliet to put the finishing touches on our Camp Athena program for children. The Social Justice Committee organized to bring dinner to the monthly community meeting of the LGBT Asylum Task Force. And as you just heard Marc say, your stewardship team is planning a party on Sunday, October 3rd after church to invite support for the coming year. Your giving makes a difference. The ushers will circulate through the sanctuary to accept donations. You may also text 844-906-2338, followed by the amount you wish to donate, or scan the QR code in the order of service. You can also go to firstunitarian.com and click Give Online at the top of any page. I invite your generous contributions for the good work of First Unitarian Church.
prayer for this church. May each one among us have skin that longs to touch other skin, fingertips that long for other fingertips, or whole hands and even arms, bodies that want to stand next to other bodies, not alone, while singing and bending, stirring soup. May ones whose skin doesn't cry out for other skin wish it did, and so teach it, so that no one stands alone and no one aches and does not say so. May our doors be so open it is drafty inside, and people sometimes shout because noises without come also within. May those sheltered here sometimes cry, all at once, letting tear water clean what words by themselves cannot. In silent times, may everyone present hear everyone else breathing. And no, this is not separate from how the world breathes all night. May we always have enough room for those many who want to come in. May those who cherish this church be so glad they cannot stop speaking, stop asking, and may that crowding itself be a gladness as we keep adding rooms. May we notice each one who is new and invite her to stay. May our list of names for the holy not ever be finished. And may we hear God chuckling with us as we find still more. Blessed be.
Time is filled with swift transition.
First Unitarian Church, what a joy it is to be coming back together for a new church year. With some of us here in the sanctuary and some of us at home, and some of us long vaccinated and eager to get back to normal, and some of us anxiously awaiting for our young children to be eligible for vaccination. Some calm, some worried, and all of us knowing that this will be a year unlike any other, following a year unlike any other, as we navigate how to be a good church in hard times. I feel so much joy being here with you today, but I still have to acknowledge in my heart how much sorrow there is in the world right now. Hundreds of Americans are dying every day from COVID-19, most of them unvaccinated, even though death and hospitalization are almost completely preventable with vaccines. We're mourning those soldiers who died in the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. And we're praying too for ordinary Afghans, especially women and girls who must now live under Taliban rule. We stand chastened before the power of a changing climate, change which humans wrought, as people become more likely to perish in storms or from extreme heat. We fight against the threats to democracy and human rights here in our own country, as voting rights are curtailed and women's freedoms limited. As people of faith, we lament. We join the psalmist in asking, "How long, O Lord? How long will we sorrow?" And we remember, too, this weekend, the sorrow from years past. We're thinking of those who lost their lives during the September 11th attacks, ordinary Americans at work or in an airplane who died because of the hatred of a few. We mourn the innocent victims of the war on terror, people caught up in policing and military responses who did nothing wrong. Every time we feel fear when there is nothing to fear, we feel that sorrow. And every way we are made to distrust our neighbors for their religion or their race. So these are hard times. And if we're honest, we're always in some ways living through hard times as people. And yet we gather again, yet we come into this church and we say, this is the day the Lord has made, and we are here to be glad in it together. We are here in a spirit of joy and thanksgiving. We are grateful to be together, grateful for the gift of life, grateful to have one another on life's journey. We give thanks for ordinary sweetnesses, the chance to walk outside every morning, the faces of our friends, good food on our table, and hands to hold around it. We are grateful that the pandemic has receded enough for us to be here together today. We give thanks for the resilience of the earth, for our loving memories of those who have passed away, and for kindness in the face of fear. We know that we have deeper values to draw on. We know we have what we need to live in this world and to love it and to be good to one another despite everything that would drive us apart. What is that thing that we need? What sustains us and gives us hope? If you listen to the clamoring voices in the public square, you might think that the most important thing is to be right and to convince those other people that they are wrong. But here in our church, we are called to something better than that. We are called to be kind. And I want to tell you a story about being kind versus being right in Unitarianism. In 1841, a minister named Theodore Parker gave an ordination sermon at a colleague's ordination as a Unitarian minister. Theodore Parker was the minister of a church in West Roxbury. He would go on to be one of the most famous Unitarian ministers, one of the most famous ministers of his day. He founded a church in Boston to which thousands of people went before the Civil War. He was a fiery abolitionist, but this is before all of that. He was pastoring a small church in West Roxbury, a sleepy farming community in Boston, and he went off to preach his friend's ordination sermon. And in this sermon, which is excellent, you can see why he was able to bring thousands of people to his sermons. In this sermon, he said that the truth of Christianity did not depend on the personal authority of Jesus or on Jesus having any particular personal relationship to God or any kind of divinity. He said that they were true simply because they were true, and that Jesus had discerned them and therefore was worthy of being followed. Well, you know, at an ordination, it's not just people who agree with you who are there. There were ministers from elsewhere in that part of Boston, from other traditions, who also came to that service and heard that sermon. And they took careful notes of everything that Theodore Parker had said and published it. Following the service, published a summary of the most theologically offensive parts of the sermon, and said, if these Unitarians are really Christians, they will kick this guy out of the Unitarian Ministers Club. They'll say, this man is no Christian and he can't be part of our community anymore. And you know, there were plenty of Unitarian ministers who completely agreed with that point of view. They did think of themselves as Christian. Of course, so did Theodore Parker, but we have to set that aside. This is about being right and being wrong, and these ministers definitely thought that their way of being Christian was right and his way of being Christian was wrong, and in order to maintain their respectability as ministers with other ministers, they needed to kick him out. But on the other hand, they were Unitarians, and they did not believe that a creed was necessary to be a minister or a member of a Unitarian church. And just as important, Theodore Parker was a good man. He was a good minister. He cared for his people. He was kind and respectful. Even his most ardent detractors theologically, these are in the words of Conrad Wright, a historian who tells us this story in an essay he wrote, that even his detractors had the highest regard for Parker personally and praised both the purity of his character and his zealous devotion to the truth. So now the Unitarians were stuck. The Boston Ministers Association met. Parker was there. They began a conversation about whether or not a particular view of Christianity was required to be a Unitarian minister. Dr. Frothingham said that Parker's speech was vehemently deistical. Someone said, it is plain we can't have ministerial intercourse with Mr. Parker. He denies the miracles. And then a minister named Chandler Robbins finally came to the point. Since Mr. Parker finds the feeling and respect to him is so general, I think it is his duty to withdraw from the association. The ministers weren't quite ready to take a vote and kick Theodore Parker out. They just thought he ought to recognize that the sentiment was completely against him and withdraw to prevent them any embarrassment. But Theodore Parker said, we have never had to agree with each other in this association. We have never had to have theological uniformity. And I am your brother. I love you. I am not going to resign from this fellowship. And all the ministers in the room, we can imagine them all white men wearing their 1840s suits, feeling the weight of their calling on their shoulders, All of those men realized that they were not willing to exclude Theodore Parker from their fellowship because they knew him to be a good and kind man, a man dedicated to the teachings of Jesus, even if he did deny the miracles, a person they loved, and that they were, in fact, committed to the principle of free inquiry, and they were not willing to exclude someone they loved from that search, even when his opinions completely disagreed with theirs. Conrad Wright says, several of the members said kind things about Parker's sincerity, and Theodore Parker burst into tears. Dr. Frothingham shook him cordially by the hand and expressed the hope that he would come to see him very soon, and the closest the Unitarians ever came to a heresy trial was over. Those Unitarian ministers couldn't kick Theodore Parker out in the end because they loved him. They took the disagreement completely seriously. It really did matter to them whether or not Jesus was divine, whether or not the miracles were real, whether or not Unitarians were Christians. Little did they know what was going to come in the next 150 years. They wanted to be respectable. They wanted their Methodist and Lutheran colleagues to like them. But despite these differences and pressures, despite their theological disagreements, their ideas, and their intellectual commitments, it was in the end more important to that community to be loving than to be right. And that is part of what Theodore Parker was telling us exactly about Jesus and his ministry. In our covenant here at First Unitarian Church, in words dating back to the 1890s, we say that we unite in the spirit of Jesus. And I think about Theodore Parker's Jesus when we say this. Not a miracle worker or God's one emissary to a sinful people, but someone who pointed us toward what was right and said it is higher than the right and the wrong that separate us as human beings. That it calls to our hearts in the form of our conscience, and it points us to eternal rights and eternal truths that we are always trying to discern in loving community. We take it into our lives and we try to live it there, listening to that voice in our hearts, finding our deepest values and our highest calling. It's easy to post something pithy online and have the feeling of being right. But it is harder sometimes to do what is loving for our fellow human beings, especially when they disagree with us. Yet we are always here in the middle, always muddling through, in our church and our world, always sorrowing and feeling joy together, always called by that Spirit to remember that every person carries the divine spark within them. Not just us here in this sanctuary, but everybody, even those people who aren't vaccinated yet, even people on the other side of the political aisle or the culture wars. We wish we could simply get there already, to that place where there is no more sorrow, to the end of the pandemic, to the place where there is no more suffering and all is joy and peace. I think it's not a place we're going to know in this life. I think it's the city called heaven that Athene sang about. We long to get there, to put sorrow behind us and live in happiness, but that is not what it is to be human. We are always here in the middle, always on the way, always knowing joy and sorrow together, always mourning and celebrating, always searching for that half-hidden truth that calls us on, always listening for the voice of God in our hearts. We're always on the journey. There's no one but all of you that I would rather have as companions. I love you all. Amen. Our closing hymn is number 1 in your gray hymnals, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door. Please rise in body or spirit to sing. Forth into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast that which is good. Render to no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the afflicted. Honor everyone. Love and serve the holy, rejoicing in the power of the Spirit forever. Amen. Please be seated for the postlude.